Hello there, I'm Bryden Oliver and I'm in the studio here at NDC Sydney. I'm talking to Shane Baldacchino and we're going to talk about sustainability in the cloud. Good afternoon, Shane.
Good afternoon, Bryden and our viewers.
So you're passionate about the sustainability in the cloud. So what got you interested in this topic?
Oh, that's a great question. Look, I think as a builder, I've always been passionate about increasing the economy of one's architecture and pulling cost out. But the more I got into this and really understanding the nuts and bolts behind cloud, there's a massive correlation around sustainability. And I do believe, there is a cost of our lifestyle. You're probably watching this on, YouTube or another streaming platform. And there's a cost to serve, right? There is a cost for everything. There's a cost for our life cycle, our lifestyle today. And that carbon cost, can be reduced by, moving up the cloud maturity curve. And I truly believe, Bryden, that the cloud will allow organizations around the world to decarbonise their tech stack only if, they move up that cloud maturity curve.
So yeah, that's an interesting point that you think they need to move up the curve. Do they actually get some other benefits out of that while they're doing it?
Well, look, there are benefits from moving up the curve. A lot of undifferentiated heavy lifting will be removed by not having to manage, things like virtual machines or, heavy storage layers, etc. So that's going to potentially be, faster time to market, have your employees doing high value versus low value tasks. But, ultimately moving up the curve, there's a really tight-knit relationship between reducing the cost to serve in one's architecture.
So do companies seem to get a benefit on cost as well as environmental benefits here? So are they getting a win-win?
They are absolutely getting a win-win here, but I think it's more than that. It's operational productivity. It's removing a lot of that undifferentiated heavy lifting. It's even things like, do I need a virtual machine? Or could I start with, a SPA, a single page application, and I could use like an API gateway and have my static app, which is not so static today in 2022. I got JavaScript and all that, amazing stuff. Could I get rid of servers completely? Could I move my architecture potentially from x86 to ARM? Could I change, at the one extreme, could I modernize my language? There's a relationship between software languages and energy consumption. My favorite language is Python, but it's probably one of the dirtiest out there. And as organizations want to, they might want to be the fastest website available. A lot of organizations are moving to Rust. A lot of the hyperscalers are moving their internal services there. So, there are so many levers. And I think what's exciting is today in the cloud, there are new levers, in terms of features. Every day that gets released, most providers are, anywhere between 3 and 5 updates per day. And that allows builders like us here, which is both, daunting and exciting, to build new architectures that allow organizations to decarbonize their tech stack.
Yeah, so it was really interesting that you brought up that language is actually a differentiator of carbon emissions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how big a difference do you see there? I presume you've done some research.
Well, look, I leveraged a paper in my session that references, it shows the energy efficiency, the compilation time, and memory usage. There is a relationship between, generally speaking, those that are the fastest are the most energy efficient, but not in the case of Java, actually, because it has really high memory consumption. But it's also hard, right? Like Python, incredibly easy to use, but not that energy efficient because it's compiling, every time you execute. So compiled languages are generally faster. And look, more and more organizations are jumping, to more faster energy efficient languages like Rust. All the providers now have a SDK available for Rust, and it's giving organizations that, that performance benefit.
Is there sort of a trade-off here between simplicity? Like if you're doing a task that's only going to be run once, maybe Python is the answer, and maybe,
absolutely. And look, the electricity used by my coffee machine for me to learn Rust, as an example, could be quite high for my development team at the start here. So look, you may need to have scale in order to be able to achieve those, said benefits.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of these discussions come around the economies of scale that some of these cloud providers can give you when they're providing the service instead of you building it out of VMs and stuff.
Yeah, but look, the biggest lever that builders can pull today to decarbonise their tech stack is right now, if in most cases, the migration from x86 architecture into ARM-based or ARch64. All three public cloud providers have an ARM64 play here. And in terms of energy efficiency, they are today, as we stand, significantly more energy efficient than the x86 offerings. And we can see with companies like Apple, with their push to their Apple Silicon, their M1, M2 based architectures, it's that step change and shift of efficiency. And in a lot of cases, if your tech stack is open source based, the path to get there is easier than you think.
Thank you for this chat. We've covered a lot of ground in there, and it's been very interesting. Thank you for your time, Shane. It's been great talking about sustainability in the cloud. I've been Bryden Oliver here in the NDC studios in Sydney. See you next time.